Good morning, my name is Fiona Blackham. I'm here to talk about designing your garden for the City of Stirling. So hopefully we'll walk through some steps this morning and give you some things that you can take away with you and put into your garden so your garden is beautifully cool in summer and lovely and warm in winter, and you end up putting the right tree and the right plant in the right place, and you spend more time enjoying your garden and not spending too much time in there working all the time and not liking it. There's a Chinese proverb about the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the second best time to plant it is now. This picture that I've got here is a wonderful tree up in far north Queensland, and I just wonder whether the person who planted it realised how big it was going to grow and the amount of space it was going to take. So a lot of common things that we find in our gardens, that we moving into a new garden, or if we're designing a new garden or thinking what plant we want to put, we don't think about how big is it going to grow, what do I have to do to maintain this, are there roots underground going to be a problem later on, is this plant going to be happy? What does it look like? How does it look like from different angles in our garden? So these are some of the things we're going to talk about and go through today, and hopefully you'll go away and look at your garden with new fresh eyes. How do we get from this to this, from a typical urban, suburban backyard with the hills hoist into something that's beautiful that we can walk through and really, really enjoy? Common question that I get is, where do I go? How do I find information? Where do I start? So the first thing we have to look at with designing our garden smarter is we have to look around, look at what's around us. Where's the sun coming from at what time of year, at what time of day? Where's the wind coming from? Where's the rain coming in from at what direction? And all of these play a part in designing a garden that works better and creates less work for us, and healthier plants as well, which means a nicer place for us to go and enjoy. Local councils have lots of great information available for you with plants that you can get for free sometimes as well, especially if you want to do a verge garden. And also soil and water, really, really important. We live in Perth. We're trying to plant a lot of exotic species or plants that grow overseas, and we're trying to plant them here and have them grow in soil that, quite frankly, is really mostly just sand. So we'll talk a little bit about sand today as well. And that way, how do you save money on your plants so you're buying the right plant? Good garden design. Good garden design means it's a comfortable space, it's another room, and it's an extension of your house. So when you can go outside, enjoy the outside space. In Perth, we're really, really lucky. We have pretty good weather all year round. So better use of space, understanding your seasons as well. We live in Australia, we don't live overseas, and we have different seasons to the 4 seasons that we commonly know as summer, autumn, winter, spring. Know your soil, choose your right plants. How do we choose plants and look after our soil so we don't have to put so much water into our soil and grow plants that just need lots of water as well? So choosing wisely. How does that all contribute with everybody putting new plants in, designing their garden better, to the urban cooling as well? So how do we keep our suburbs cooler with temperatures getting hotter? Ecology. How do we plant our gardens so that we have more birds coming in, we have more geckos, more insects, things that really combine together to help that garden thrive. So one big thing you may have noticed around where there's new developments coming in, larger properties are being subdivided into smaller properties. A lot of the trees that have been there for a really long time, they're being taken away, new trees have been coming in, and people are trying to find ways to design and re-landscape their properties. So my part of what I would like to do is look at bringing back the green into our communities. For you in the City of Stirling, this is straight from the City of Stirling's website, we're looking at the canopy cover through the City of Stirling as well. Orange, 0 to 5% canopy cover, the grey area, 5 to 10% canopy cover, all the way up to dark green. So there's really, combined, there's not a great deal of canopy cover or greening, which means big trees cooling the landscape, cooling the area around our houses as well, which all means we have cooler houses and a nicer place to live. So a good garden design means that we can help contribute to that and keep those temperatures down in our area as well. If you want to find more information on this as well, go to the City of Stirling website. Put in their urban canopy cover into the search on the website, and you'll get a whole lot of information up on this. Where to start? So look around you first and observe. As a permaculturalist, that's the first thing that I do. I go in and I have a look. My first recommendation to you is to know where north is. You can get an app on your phone, compass app on your phone, or a good old-fashioned compass, figure out where north is. Why that is important is because the sun from season to season goes up, comes down in different places. So if you're facing north and looking north, in summer, the sun is going to be coming up around December over your right-hand shoulder, back in the southeast, and it's going to be going down in the southwest. The sun in the middle of summer, as we know, it's really high in the sky. It's really high up in the sky, and we're getting a lot more sunlight, and it's a lot hotter as well. But in winter, the sun actually comes up in the northeast and goes down in the northwest. And so we get less sunlight hours, it's changed position, and the sun's not quite as high in the sky either. And how that impacts on our garden design is it means in winter, the sun's lower in the sky, we're going to have a lot more shadow in our back gardens and on our houses as well. So if we're thinking about the sun and angles, where they come up, where they go down, we can start to be a little bit smarter with our plants and when we're planting them, and also consider our fences next door. Maybe you've got a big double 2-story or 3-story apartment block next door. You've got a very small backyard. So it helps you choose plants that are going to enjoy being in the shade in winter and maybe will handle the heat in summer when the sun is really high overhead. The picture I've got here also is a picture of a banana circle that we built on a property that I built. The top picture was when we first put it in. The bottom picture is about 18 months later. So being mindful that when you're designing a garden, what does it look like when you put it in, but what's it going to look like as those plants grow? And those bananas aren't at full height, so they'll be a lot bigger in another 18 months' time. So year by year, season by season, think about what you're putting in and what it's going to look like afterwards. As I said earlier, we live in Western Australia. We don't live in England. We don't live in the Northern Hemisphere. In WA, we have actually 6 seasons, and they're called the Noongar seasons. You can find this on any website. Google it, 6 Noongar seasons. And you can see as you go through, it's not actually set on a date for changing over. It's more on how the weather is changing, where the winds come from, what the environment's doing, what the birds are doing. So realising as well that we have 6 seasons, not 4 seasons, will go a long way with helping you designing your garden and realise how the weather changes. Predominantly in Perth, we really want nice summer shading. So the one thing that can happen when you have a nice area that's really, really shaded in summer, it can be incredibly cold in winter. And as I said earlier, the sun changes its angle in the sky. So thinking about how we design a garden, cool in summer, is it going to be really cold in winter as well? And is that what we're after? So looking at this wall that we have, in winter, this is a pomegranate that's growing up a wall. Well, we've espaliered on a wall, which means spreading it out and making it grow in the direction that we want it. In winter, all the leaves drop off this plant. So that wall is going to get really warm and warm up the house. But in summer, it's covered in green, so it cools that wall down. So thinking about also plants that do multiple things. So plants like this that lose their leaves, they're called deciduous plants. And we can use them in our garden design. to keep the heat out in summer, but let the sun come through in winter. One thing, if you're looking again with your garden design and keeping in line with the sun aspect and where it comes up and goes down, is in summer, the sun will burn your plants. And in winter, if there's not enough sun, they can get fungal infections. So powdery mildew on a tomato plant in winter, sunburn on a tomato plant in summer, because it's put in the wrong place and you haven't thought about that with your sun. So something to think about. A picture here that I've put up is a really easy way of looking at that. So tying that all together. This man's very stiff, standing there. The summer sun is showing the winter, at the winter solstice, the sun is about 29 degrees off horizon, but the winter solstice, but in summer it's up really, really high. So when I'm talking about sun angles off horizon, that's what I mean. How high in the sky is it going to be? The picture on the other side is showing how the sun travels, where it comes up in the southeast and where it goes down in the southwest in summer and where it comes up and goes down in winter. Moving on as well, another thing to look at in your garden design is wind. And if you live near the coast, you will probably have heard of the Fremantle Doctor, or maybe know it as the afternoon sea breeze that comes through. Wind comes from different directions at different times of year. So as a previous landscape designer or landscape gardener, I could see areas of gardens where it hadn't been well thought out about the wind, and if a fence had been put in, creating a wind tunnel going through at the wrong time of year can really damage your garden and have areas of your garden where things just don't like to grow. So understanding where your wind comes from and at what time of year, that's my other second point for you to be looking at with your garden. For those of you who are a bit more tech head minded and want to follow through with this wind thing a little bit further, you can jump on the Bureau of Meteorology website, which is bom.gov.au, and type in wind roses. I will have some more information available through the City of Stirling if you want to find out step by step how to get through and navigate the Bureau's website. And then you can hop on and have a look for these. These are called wind roses, and these are great information for you to look at statistics and data if you want to get into that, to understand how wind changes through the year. So this on the left is really simply showing where the predominant wind is coming from at 9 a.m. in December, and this is from up in the hills. So this is from Bickley Weather Station. Whereas 3 p.m. in December, the wind really changes. So understanding that different times, different places through the year, the wind will change, and that can have an effect on your garden. This picture is looking at seasons. So looking at wind roses, 3 p.m. in December, comparison to 3 p.m. in June, so summer and winter. The wind in summer is predominantly coming from the southwest. In winter, it's coming from a totally different angle. It's coming predominantly from the north. So again, understanding how wind will affect your property. This can be really beneficial if you want the wind to cool your house down. So again, garden design can have a massive big impact and a link to your house and the cooling of your house. And again, it's another nice place to be if you've got a lovely cool garden and you can be outside in it and use the wind to your advantage to cool your house down and protect your house as well in winter so it doesn't get so cold. The last thing I want to bring up is slope on your property. Some of you might be on flat land, some of you might have a bit of a slope on your property. So working with the slope on your property, think about how are you going to access things? Do you need a pathway going through your property? Are steps going to really be a logical thing for your property? So how are you going to get from one end to the other if you have a pathway going through? Should your pathway be a hard pathway, or can you just have a mulch pathway? Because when it rains, is the water going to erode that pathway? And then you've got a problem that you have to go back and fix back up afterwards. So how does slope affect your property? So with regards to water, to do with erosion, with regards to access, how you're going to move about your property, and also with plants, if you're planting something up the top of a slope, how is that shadow going to affect all the other plants in your garden and what you want them to do? So think about slope as well. So we've going back, we've looked at sun, where it comes up and goes down. We've looked at wind, how that affects our property as well. And we've looked at slope. So where does slope, how does that affect our water coming into the property? Do we really want to go up and down a hill a lot or have to push things over steps to get up and down through our property? And also with the slope as well, how does that affect the shading of plants that we put in? If we put a big tree at the top of a slope, it's going to shade a lot bigger area of our garden at different times of the year. One really important thing people often don't think about is soil. And you go to the shop, you see a plant, you really like it, you buy it, or you've seen it in somebody else's garden, you bring it home, you plant it, it does great for a week and then it dies. And so a lot of people don't think about soil. Is this the right plant for the right place, for the right reason, and for the right season as well? Soil is so important. In the coastal area, a lot of our soil has what's called a very alkaline soil. It's got a very high pH. And so if you're trying to plant plants that, such as gardenias or camellias, they like what's called an acidic soil, which is a lower pH. So if you're trying to put a gardenia into sandy soil in an environment it really doesn't like, it's going to end up very sick, it's not going to be happy, and it's always going to struggle. So if we're looking at our plant, what does it need? Look at your soil. Go and have a look. Soil should have, in 1 teaspoon, over 1 billion things living in that, which is more people than we have on the planet. It should contain all the nutrients for your plants to survive, and it should have biodiversity, which means there's lots of different things going on in there. So then your plants are happier because they're getting what they need. So just quickly, what is in soil? Soil generally is made up of 45% mineral particles, which is your sand, silt and clay. Unfortunately, down here on the Swan Coastal Plain, it's mostly sand and a little bit of silt. It should have 25% air, and that air is there so that there's somewhere for the water to be as well. 25% water, plants can't eat without water. They don't have teeth. So plants need to take up their nutrients in water in a soluble way. And then the final 5%, sometimes 10%, is organic matter. So organic matter, another word for that is compost. Compost, decomposing organic matter, your leaves, your twigs, all the little dead critters that are doing their jobs in there, your worms and your slaters and all these fantastic organisms that live in the soil, they are part of what is called organic matter. And so again, Perth is really lacking in that organic matter. Organic matter is made up of composting, basically. So the natural way that this would happen is leaves would fall off a tree, they'd go into a pile, they decompose down because all your little macros, which is just a fancy word for saying things you can actually see with your eyes, animals you can see with your eyes, such as worms and slaters, as I mentioned before, they break down the food into something that the microbes really like to eat. The microbes then help bring all those nutrients back to the plant. The plant picks up all the nutrients from the soil, and so it starts again, and that's called the nutrient cycle. We seem to like to break that cycle. As gardeners, we like everything neat and tidy. And so from a garden designing point of view, you can design your garden beautifully, but if you don't have the right soil in there and you're not constantly feeding the soil back in with those nutrients, your plants aren't going to be happy, and you'll end up with a garden possibly that isn't doing what you want it to do, and it's not growing how you want it to grow. So really important to look at soil and your nutrient cycling. A couple of things you can do at home is check your pH of your soil. And I'll show you in a next slide a pH test kit that you can get to do at home whenever you want. But any good soil yard, you should be able to take a soil sample to a good soil yard and get it checked for pH. The top picture is showing acidic soil, which is from up in the hills where I live. And down the bottom on the right-hand side, the purple one, that's alkaline soil, which is more from the coast. Another common problem we have here in Perth with our gardens and our soil is they repel water. They don't soak the water in very well. And we call that hydrophobic soils. So again, understanding your soil, bringing back the organic matter or compost into your soil will really help buffer or keep your pH of your soil in a neutral position, which is about 6.5 to 7, and also will stop this water repellency of your soil as well. So your plants can actually get the water that they need so that they can thrive and be really healthy plants. This is a soil test kit I was talking about earlier. It was developed by the CSIRO, and it will cost you about $30, $25 to $30 at any hardware store that you can find it in. Take it home, don't be scared of using it. The instructions are all in the packet. Have a go and check what your soil pH is. Why I'm ramping on about pH is because you can design your garden, put your plants in, but if you don't know the right plant for the right place, chances are that you're going to get the wrong plant for the wrong place. If you remember my analogy earlier about talking about gardenias or camellias who like really acidic soil, put them into an alkaline soil or a soil that they don't like and they're not going to survive. So what I'd like you to avoid doing is buying plants that are just going to die and you waste your money. So plants pick up nutrients at different pH. So if you can keep it between 6.5 and 7, all these basic nutrients that a plant needs, they're going to be able to get it. If you want to find more information about this, jump online, do some Googling, and you'll understand your garden and how soil works really well with your plants a lot better. So in summary, growing soil, build organic matter, keep the plants in your garden healthier, keep them thriving better so it's a really nice place for you to go out and be with really healthy plants, and you're not spending a lot of time out there trying to deal with plants that are unhappy with pests and disease. Really quickly about composting. If you're at home and you don't want to keep buying your compost, lots of different ways you can compost. Trench composting, bokashi, leaf mold cages, lasagna gardening, which sounds really tasty, Dalek composting bins, your good old tumbler compost bins, vermiculture, which is worm composting. A lot of shires and councils, and I think the city of Stirling, do have rebates for worm farms or vermicomposting. So get hold of your local shire council and see what they have to say. And then the good old hot composting, or technically called thermophilic composting, which a lot of places don't have space for this anymore. So don't think that if you want to compost, this is what you have to do. There's lots and lots of different options. Again, from worm farms to bokashi, which is a fantastic way of fermenting and then composting, straight in the ground. If you're a bit lazy like me, I tend to do one of these two. Just have a go. See what you can come out with at the end of the day. If you don't have any room for composting, have a look at green waste bins as well, where the council can take all your green waste, which is your veggie scraps, fruit scraps, tree prunings, grass clippings, things like that, and they will compost it for you. So don't put it in the bin, is my point. Make sure it can go somewhere and be useful to somebody else. So bringing that all together into garden design. Choosing plants, right plant, right place, right reason, right region, right season. Why I say right region is to make sure that you're buying a plant that will grow in your region, in your area. So making sure you're going to have success, so you don't think that your garden design or you don't end up with a garden design that doesn't work for you. So setting yourself up for it to actually succeed is the way to go with garden design. So what do plants want? How to avoid dead plants? the problems and wasted time and money. That's what we want to avoid. So trees are fantastic. They're great at cooling the urban environment. So when you're choosing a tree, choose the right tree for what you want it to do. Choose it for your climate. Make sure you've got the right tree for your climate. And also water availability. Water is becoming more scarce, and I don't think people want to pay for more water every year as well. So getting a little bit smarter with your trees and what you want to do. Do you want a deciduous tree or an evergreen tree? A deciduous tree is one that loses its leaves in winter, but in summer, beautiful green canopy. An evergreen tree is exactly that. It's evergreen. All the time, it's always green. So in your garden design, thinking about where you're putting your tree, what type of tree you're getting, how is this going to work out on my property in summer and in winter? Do you want a standard tree, a semi-dwarf tree, or a dwarf tree? So standard is the standard height, and nowadays they've been able to cultivate trees so that you can still have that large tree, predominantly fruit trees, but you can have it in a semi-dwarf, so it's slightly smaller than what it would normally grow, or a dwarf tree. So you can get nectarine trees that only grow about 3 foot high, or you can have a big nectarine or a nectarine halfway in between, which is a semi-dwarf. So when you're shopping for trees and looking at trees, think about what size you want as well. Also think about with your trees, what's happening underground? How big are their roots going to be? Are they going to get into pipe work? Where are they going to go to? Are they going to be a problem for your neighbour? Are they going to be a problem for your footings? Are they going to go under your driveway? There are plenty of trees available through your council as well, and verge trees that they've already done the work for you. They've thought about all of this, and it can tell you what trees are going to be right for your area. So get hold of City of Stirling, either on their website or give them a call. Have a chat to them about what trees that they have available. Plants and shrubs, when you're choosing your trees or choosing your shrubs as well, what type of tree do you want? Is it going to be good for the environment? And again, recapping on what I had in that previous slide, evergreen, deciduous, flowering, food for our native birds. If it's going to produce a lot of fruit, what are you going to do with the fruit as well? So making sure that we keep in line with reducing fruit fly around Perth as well. Does your neighbour have a lemon tree? Can you grow something else instead? How big is it going to grow? Ground covers, so choosing plants that you like at different times a year. So ground covers are a fantastic way to have a living mulch in your garden. And by that I mean, you don't have to keep bringing in mulch every year to cover up the bare soil. So ground covers, these are all pictures of native ground covers that I have brought up for you. And they're all endemic, which means they're all native to Perth or native to the southwest of Australia. And they will eventually cover the ground for you. So they keep the ground cool, they protect the soil, they're beautiful looking, lots of flowers, different times a year. So do your research, get hold of your local nursery, go in and have a chat to them. They've got people who work there, horticulturalists, that's their profession, and they're more than happy to help you with choosing the right plants. So range of ground covers, if we're starting from the bottom. Again, looking at shrubs, how big are they going to grow? What colours are they? Can they provide some flowers for the bees? How much maintenance is involved? How big are they going to grow? Do you want to keep cutting them back all the time? So choosing plants, especially near pathways as well, that as you walk through, are they going to come over onto the pathway? And how will they sit on the slope? Can they hold the soil on the slope for you as well? Shrubs and trees are also great to have as focal points in your garden. So looking at perspective, where you sit in your garden, have you got a kitchen window that looks out or a dining room window that looks out into your garden? Your bedroom window, when you're lying in bed, reading a book, having a cup of coffee on a stormy Sunday, when you look out the window, what do you want to be looking at? Is there a 2-story place next door that you want to have not looking into your bedroom window anymore, into your dining room. So what tree can you put there? What garden plant can you put there that's really, really nice for you to be able to look at? And again, focal points. So using trees as a centre for you to draw your eye to. So you want to maybe go into the garden and have a look. It invites you to come in and go and want to sit in the garden as well. Just a few more pictures of shrubs. Again, these are all native plants. I'm a little bit biased. Natives are one of my passions, but there are certainly lots of beautiful ornamental plants as well that flower at different times a year. So making sure, again, you're choosing the right plant for the right soil. It likes the sun or it likes the shade. How is it going to grow there in summer? How is it going to grow there in winter? And using plants as a focal point. Plants, in my mind, and a garden, and it's an extension of the house. Different rooms within your garden, you can create those with the right plants. In permaculture, we talk about the 9 layers of a permaculture garden. If you look out in nature, they don't just have one layer of the same type of plant. So nature designs with diversity, lots of different plants out there. Tall trees, small shrubs, things in between, lots of birds flitting around, dragonflies, bees. That's the kind of thing we really want to bring into our garden. So as a permaculturalist, this is what I try and design, is to have this diversity where we have a really big tall upper canopy, which in your garden, it might only be 2 metres tall, and that's quite okay. In my garden, I live on a large property, that could be 18 metres tall. So it really depends on what your property size is. All the way down from the upper canopy, down to the lower canopy, all the way through, even down to bog gardens or ponds or wetlands. So all of these beautiful things that you can be bringing into your garden design. If you build it, they will come. All the little birds and insects will come into your garden. It'll be a really nice place to enjoy. If you have children as well, just be mindful with ponds in your garden. There are rules and regulations with the depths of ponds. So again, check with your local council, check with City of Stirling about their recommendations to make sure that your back garden, if you are having a pond, is a safe place for your kids and or your pets to be as well. So where do we get them from? We've looked at our garden, we've thought about our sun, we've thought about where the wind's coming from, we've gone, yes, this is where I want to create a beautiful space to be. I can sit at my kitchen table or in bed having a cup of tea and I want to look out. That's fantastic, Fiona, but where do I get all these plants from? So a lot of them, especially if you're looking at a verge garden, you can get through your local council, through tree programs or native plant programs as well. Can go to non-for-profit nurseries such as A Pace in North Fremantle or Men of the Trees, even up to Friends of King Park. Go to your local nursery, as I said before, talk to the people there. They will know what grows well in your area as well. So local knowledge is invaluable. Talk to your neighbours. If you see a tree that they have and it's growing well, ask them where they got it from. After you've got your lovely garden in, you've designed it, your pathways are all in, everything's done, you've enjoyed it for 6 to 12 months, then you go, oh, it's time to get out there and do a little bit of work out there. Pruning, mulching, water conservation. I've touched on a little bit before about composting. You can be part of that as well. So again, looking at your pruning, mulching practice, are you happy to just prune things straight off the bush, chop them up into little pieces and let them fall on the ground? If you let them do that, they will break down and feed back into the soil. That's generally best practice to go for. So again, we call it mulching or chop and drop. You're literally chopping it and letting it drop down, letting it fall down on the ground and stay there, and it will break down over time. If you can't do that or you're not able to do that, again, look at whether you have a green waste bin. I'm not sure what the City of Stirling has with different suburbs. If you have green waste bins, put your green waste into that, so at least it's going off and being composted somewhere else. Try not to put it into your general rubbish bin. So putting it all together in summary, observation. With your garden design, how does it look from all angles, at different times of the day, at different seasons? and build the link between your garden and the lifestyle that you want. Your garden design, your backyard can be an extension of your house. So invite people to go out there and want to spend time in your garden. It's going to contribute also to your cooling of your suburb as well. So choosing your right trees, don't be scared of choosing trees, even larger trees, 4-5 metre trees. Again, talk to City of Stirling and see what they've got there and what their recommendations are if you're a little bit nervous about choosing the wrong tree. Soil and water. If you build the soil, it will hold the water there for the plants and it will save you money. So you won't have to water it as much. It won't repel the water. It won't bead on top that we often see here in Perth with our sandy soils. And long term, far better for the environment. Choose the right plant for your area. So talk to your neighbours, talk to people around you, look at what's growing. And I will have a slide up here with a list of information which the City of Stirling will have as well available for you, so you know where you can get all these right plants that I keep talking about from. So, finding the information, lots of different websites to go through. Bureau of Meteorology for your weather patterns and your how much rainfall you actually get. If you're, again, a bit more technically inclined and you want to look at slope on your land, you can have a look at slope or contour lines through an area called Intramaps, the City of Stirling. Landgate have some great topographical maps. So if you want to get a printout of your property looking from a bird's eye view down, these are the two websites to go to. Sun arcs and sun angles. If you can't remember, how does the shade, where does the sun go? How does the shade affect my garden? Another really free online website you can go to, and you can put in where you are, time of day, and it will show you a Google image of your property, and you can see where the shadow is going to be at a certain time of day. So if you're a little bit impatient like me and you can't wait until December to try and work out where your shade is going to be or not going to be, this suncalc.org is a great website to go to. Trees and Urban Canopy with City of Stirling, plethora of information on there. Verge gardening, also if you're looking at native plants for bees, for native bees in the garden, I've got a link there for that as well. And then native plants for your area, a great not-for-profit called Circle that you can go to, and they've got some really, really awesome information there. So in summary, I hope that helps you, gives you some tips for designing a better garden and somewhere that you enjoy going out to be, that doesn't cost you a lot of time and energy. You get fed up with it and you're not interested in it, and you can sit and have a look at your backyard. Don't think that you have to go in and do everything at once. If you just want to start small, start with the little area out your front garden or out your back garden. If you're renting and you are not allowed to do a lot in the soil, look at pots, things that you can put in pots as well. There's a lot of trees and a lot of fruit trees that can go in pots as well. And the good thing with those is you can move them to chase the sun or the shade, and you can take them with you when you leave. So whether you're renting or whether you're a homeowner, you have a large property, a small property, nothing in your back garden, or you've got garden there already and you want to change it, all of this information can apply to all of you, and I hope you find it really useful. Thank you.